Okay, so it's time to sort of regroup on the 308 project. You've all been asking about it. Yes, I hold my hands up. It's been a long time since we've worked on the car. There's been a lot going on in the world. We've had all the lockdown and everything. We've been focusing on the business and getting your cars out and running for you. So to be honest, this one's been a bit like cobbler's shoes. I haven't touched it, it's just been sitting here. So we brought it round into the main workshop so we can actually get going on it again. Because you're all asking the videos. I've had people asking from Australia and all around the world, how's the 308 going? How's the 308 going? So we're going to get back on it and keep going with it. So the gearbox is starting to take shape now, and you can see before we put the selectors and everything in, obviously you've got all the selectors. Once we put those in, it sort of blocks up some of the vision, so I thought I'd show you this while we're here. Some of you may have heard the term constant mesh gearbox, and you can see the lay shaft and the main shaft here, the gears are actually in constant mesh. And then as the gears are selected by the selector hubs here, then it denotes which gear, the drive, which gear you've got. So that's where that comes. Obviously straight cut gears and helical gears, you can see these are helical gears, they're slightly angled, they're a lot quieter and much more conducive to road use. The straight cut gears, you've all been in a racing paddock and heard the cars go past singing their heads off. If you have straight cut gears that go 90 degrees, they're sometimes say stronger, but they're a lot louder. So most of the road cars have helical cut gears. Another thing that's quirky to Ferrari, as you can see, they have these carcellated lock nuts. So what you need is a special tool that we've had made with the 4 castles on it, and obviously the one that goes over a tube, so you end up with a great big special tool that goes over the end that you can then drive with an air gun just to get these things apart. And they're left and right handed threads, and you can see you've got 2 more at the other end. So without the specialist tools, you really can't do anything with these gearboxes. Now we've got the selectors in, so we've got the selector shafts for the 3 gates, we've got a selector housing and the selector forks, and we'll go through how we adjust those in a bit later. Whilst one of the other things we put on now is the engine sump. So if you can imagine that's all upside down, this is our engine sump. So this will sit on the bottom of the gearbox like this. That's our base of our sump with some cooling on it. So this is going to sit probably about this high with oil. Just a rectangular housing here, you can see. So this is our engine sump. So what you've got is about 10 litres of oil sloshing around in this rectangle. And what you want to do is try and keep the oil, this is the oil pickup, hasn't been cleaned yet, but it's going to sit about there, and it's going to pick the oil up, so it's going to be immersed in oil. So to keep the oil around this area here where the pickup is, there's these little doors, so as it sloshes that way, it'll allow this oil to come through this door, but shut that door, and as it sloshes that way, this door will open and that door will close, and it tries to keep the oil within this area, otherwise you'll get oil surge. So when you go around a fast corner, all the oil will slosh over to this side or that side, and you could get oil starvation in the middle. And if the oil pump sucks oil, then you're not going to get any oil pressure. And then on top, there's these baffle units that go on here, which again help to keep the oil in the base of the sump where the oil pickup goes. So when that sits on there like that, the name of the game is to keep as much oil in that area as possible, regardless of going around corners or what have you. Okay, so here we have our basic limited slip diff unit. This is a ZF one that was used throughout the sort of 70s and 80s on most Ferraris. So you've got your diff pinion in the middle, your crown wheel, the other bit's on the gearbox, but what you've got here, the bit that makes this difference between a normal diff with the Suns and Planet wheels and a limited slip diff is this little selection of clutch plates here. So what I'll do, I'll show you how it goes together and how it stops one wheel spinning under load, instead of when you come out of a corner the inside wheel spinning like there's no tomorrow. With a limited slip one, it slows it down. As you can imagine how the diff works, so trying to explain how this, so if you imagine this is in the middle of the gearbox, our pinion sits here, which I'll show you how it fits in the gearbox later. This basically goes round forwards and backwards. It sits in line, so that you've got the drive shaft comes out the side, each side, and on the end of each each drive shaft you've got a wheel. So all the time you're going in a straight line, the drive shafts are going around together. So you're just going backwards and forwards. When you want to go around a corner, the outside wheel is going to travel a further distance than the inside wheel. So therefore something's got to give, or you're going to break a drive shaft or break something. So what you need is something like this that will allow some independent movement between the drive shafts, so the inside wheel can go a lesser distance and the outside wheel can go round, and it doesn't stress anything and it doesn't break any drive shafts. So what we've got inside, as well as some sun and planet gears, as they're known of, and the output shaft or drive shaft, we've got a selection of plates. Now this is where a limited slip diff is different from a non-limited slip diff. So what we've got is, some of the shims have got like a clutch type surface on, they're abrasive, and some of them are just smooth. So the smooth ones obviously sit there, and then when the friction ones rub on them, it causes like a braking surface and slows the component down. So we've got two types of surface to go in. So now the diff basically comes in half, and you can see we've got one side with the drive shaft, and you can see it turns the gear inside. So if we just clump one in a vise, so we've now got that, so we can rotate the outside. So what you've got then is, they're called the sun gears because they're the big ones, and these are the planets, and the planets go around the sun. So very original, whoever thought those up. So these fit on there, like that. Bit of a fiddle. So now that's how it works, that when this drive shaft, so if you can imagine that one's on top of there without the casing, when one drive shaft is going a different speed to the other one, what happens is, rather than having a solid joint right through the diff to the drive shafts, the planets go round. So when the planets move, that's what happens. But what happens in a non-slip situation is that they can go around like that. I mean, you get one wheel that stands still and one wheel that can be going. You've all come out of a junction in your little hot hatch, and the inside wheel's going like crazy and the other side's doing nothing. This is why, because the diff's just going around like this. So what you have to do is try and put a braking situation in that then lets the two turn together. So how it does it is by having these little, whatever you want to call it, angles here. So when that sits on that, when this tries to twist, it rides up these bevels. So these shafts here will try and they will meet a resistance from the outside wheel, and the centre shafts will ride up these little V's. So effectively what that does, as that lifts up the V's, it makes this rise. That has actually got these all clamped on it, so you've now got your friction plates sitting on the top and your non-friction plates. So the friction plates are attached to the drive shaft, they've got the teeth in the middle, but the outer plates have got the ears that are attached to the diff. So these are attached to the outside. So as it gets a resistance, what it does, it rides up the angles, lifts the middle, and effectively reduces the distance and squashes these, because these are all housed in the diff. So they've got nowhere to go. So when they're set normally, there's a bit of a working clearance, but as soon as this centre piece rises slightly, it squashes these together, which causes basically a braking resistance and stops the inside wheel spinning. So the way this is put together then, so we have our friction plate, then we have our non-friction plate, and there's a spring washer that goes on the top, and then the other part of the casing, the diff, so we've got to line all the ears up. That sits on there with a bit of jiggery pokery. This all slots together. That then bolts together, and the drive shaft is at the top, and you can see as that's trying to lift, it's lifting up the middle. Now this is all bolted together, so where it's got nowhere to go, it will squash the friction plates. So it's basically making the distance here by riding up the angles, pushing that unit back, which effectively squashes these. Hard to sort of, if I
can get that bit in there. This has got nowhere to go, so this is up against the casing, so when it's moving like this, it's okay, but then when that tries to move that way, it crushes the plates. So all the time you're going gently, it's fine. As soon as it builds up a resistance, and there's a road resistance from the wheel, it squashes the middle and basically puts the brakes on one side of the drive shaft as a cooling, and that's how it works. Now, some of you have noticed when you pull out of the garage, or when you go lock to lock, sometimes you get a juddering noise from the back. If ever you've been in a pit lane in a racing pits or something like that, and you hear a car come out, Cortinas, and the older cars do it, and they come out of the garage, and as they turn, there's a crack, crack, bang, bang, crack, crack. What it is, it's these plates releasing. Now, on race cars, they run a much tighter tolerance, so the brake's already halfway on. So when they do a sharp turn and they come out of a garage, these plates sort of building up tension, eventually they break and slip, and then they build up tension, eventually they break and slip, and that's what all the cracking and banging is. Now, sometimes you'll get that on the Ferrari. If these get dry, the way the oil fed in here, this sits in the gearbox, and the oil level sits about halfway hit through. The centrifugal force, whilst you've got, now you imagine that's sort of on there, so it's fairly large. When all this is going round, the oil flings outwards, and the clutch plates can actually get quite dry. So sometimes you get sort of clonking and clanking from the back of these, or if they've been left standing for a long time and the oil's drained out, usually with a bit of use they come on, or if the clutch plates have actually worn out and had it, then you need new ones. But quite often you'll hear, especially on the older cars, these fitted Dinos, Boxers, Daytonas, all that sort of era car, have all got this set up. So if you've got a little bit of clonking and clanking, especially on full lock, it's not the diff falling apart, it's the clutch plates slipping, making and breaking is what the noise is.
It's been a while, as I said before, since we've spoken and caught up on the 308 project. I've done some little bits during lockdown on sort of handheld cameras and what have you. So you've seen the breakdown of the diff unit as to how the clutches work and everything, and now it's back in the gearbox. You can see how it works, and then you've got the drive shafts that come out here and go to the wheels where it all sits in the car. So hopefully it'll make a bit more sense. We've put 2 new bearings on either end that support it for the rotation, and then there's a cover that goes on the top. So that's now all rebuilt with new plates, new bearings, there's oil seals that go on the end, and that's ready for assembly. So with regards to the engine, we did quite a lot of filming when we took this apart. It was over a year ago now. We showed you how we'd got all the broken mountings off and all the sort of dirty bits. Now it's looking to the good and shiny bits. So we've got it all back from machining. We showed you how all the machining happened. So now you can see we've got the block to assemble, heads have gone together. We've got all our parts over here all cleaned and ready to go on. So we've got our new pistons, we've got con rods. So there's a lot to do on engine. So we'll start to build the engine up soon and show you step by step on that. And then how basically it's a very clever system that the engine basically sits on top of the gearbox here. So it's quite a compact unit, that why they can get them in the mid-engines on the 308s.